When it comes to how much a woman is drawn to you, your physical appearance plays only a minor role. Whether or not you're her type can only get you so far. Many men realize that while looks might spark initial interest, they don't necessarily lead to a woman falling for you, chasing you, or becoming obsessed with you. What truly matters is how she feels when she's with you, and just as importantly, how she feels when she's away from you, thinking about you. In this discussion, I'll share several psychological techniques that can make a woman deeply infatuated with you. We'll explore ways to transform her interest and attraction into something much more profound. These strategies can create an intense bond, making her envision a future with you and keeping you on her mind constantly. In today's fast-paced world, if a woman isn't thinking about you when you're not around, it's difficult to hold her attention long enough to develop a deeper relationship. Acting quickly to build the right connection is crucial, or someone else might step in, and her interest in you could fade. This guide will provide practical, easy-to-implement strategies to enhance the emotional intensity she feels for you and strengthen your connection. Earned validation. The concept of earned validation revolves around how someone makes us feel about ourselves. Many men rush to validate a woman, offering compliments too quickly and too often. This type of unearned validation, such as commenting on her looks or admiring her eyes, often falls flat. It's something she's likely heard countless times before, so it doesn't evoke any genuine emotion. It can even feel shallow or insincere. I recall a similar experience from years ago during a trip to another country. As a young American with blue eyes, I received numerous compliments about my appearance. At first it was flattering, but by the third day, the words lost their meaning. The compliments no longer felt good. They seemed hollow and devoid of depth. This is exactly how unearned validation feels to most women. It doesn't resonate because it requires no effort on her part to receive it. In contrast, when a woman feels like she has to earn your approval, the validation becomes far more meaningful. Earned validation happens when she puts an effort to impress you, and you gradually show that you're impressed. This type of recognition is much more rewarding for her because it feels like she's truly winning you over. One way to demonstrate earned validation is through spontaneous compliments. These are unplanned, genuine, and free of any ulterior motive. For instance, if she shares a story about a recent backpacking trip, instead of giving a generic compliment, you could say, "Wow, you're so adventurous, that's really impressive." This feels authentic because it's an honest reaction, not a calculated move to win her over. Another form of earned validation involves active listening. Many men in conversations focus on waiting for their turn to speak or trying to impress her with their own stories. Instead, practice genuinely listening and asking deeper questions that show true interest in what she's saying. Thoughtful follow-ups demonstrate your engagement and provide her with a sense of being heard, which is incredibly validating. A final method is indirect validation through a third party. Instead of directly telling her she's amazing or adventurous, you might casually mention, "I was just telling my friend about that story you shared the other day." Knowing that you've spoken positively about her to someone else amplifies the validation, making it more impactful and meaningful. This is the core of earned validation, making her feel genuinely valued and appreciated in a way that resonates deeply. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The concept of 2 steps forward, 1 step back is a powerful psychological trigger that helps build tension and anticipation. Key elements in sparking a woman's desire and making her chase you. For many women, much of the excitement lies in the mental build-up, the uncertainty, the wondering, and the playful internal dialogue about what might happen next. This tension fuels both emotional and physical attraction. Imagine a scenario where you're talking to her, and during the interaction, you briefly hold her hand. It feels good for her, but then you let go, creating a moment of distance. In her mind, she starts anticipating the next time you'll touch her. If you held her hand continuously, the tension would fade, and the moment would lose its impact. The same principle applies to eye contact. During a flirty exchange, holding her gaze briefly creates a spark, but pulling back and resuming a casual conversation keeps the dynamic alive. This push-and-pull technique can also enhance the progression of a relationship. Typically, as you spend more time together, communication and interaction naturally increase. However, allowing things to become predictable can lead to stagnation. Instead, introduce moments of withdrawal after periods of closeness. For instance, if you've spent 2 consecutive weekends with her, take the next weekend to make plans with your friends and spend time apart. This creates a moment of uncertainty and longing, making her more invested in the connection. Women are often drawn to the buildup and the uncertainty it creates. By employing the 2 steps forward, 1 step back approach, you keep her interest alive and maintain romantic tension. This subtle yet effective dynamic ensures she remains engaged and intrigued by you, keeping her thoughts centered on you even when you're not around. The balance of closeness and distance creates an irresistible sense of anticipation that fuels her obsession. Cool vulnerability. Cool vulnerability is a compelling psychological trigger that allows you to be open and relatable without oversharing or making the interaction heavy. It's about sharing aspects of yourself in a way that's endearing and entertaining, making you more human and approachable while maintaining an air of charm. To understand cool vulnerability, think about how celebrities behave during interviews on talk shows. They rarely impress the audience by flaunting their wealth or achievements. Instead, they share lighthearted, relatable anecdotes that make them seem down-to-earth and likable. For instance, actors like Matthew McConaughey or George Clooney often recount funny, slightly embarrassing stories that make them more relatable and draw the audience in. In personal interactions, you can use the same principle. For example, if a woman mentions crying at the end of Titanic, you could respond by sharing a similar experience, such as tearing up during Armageddon while watching with friends. The humor and slight embarrassment of trying to hide your emotions make the story engaging and memorable. This kind of sharing doesn't delve into overly personal or heavy topics. Instead, it reveals just enough to show you're genuine and comfortable with yourself. Cool vulnerability isn't about airing deep insecurities or childhood traumas. Instead, it's about sharing small, slightly awkward moments that make you relatable and approachable. It demonstrates confidence and emotional openness in a way that keeps the interaction light and enjoyable. To master this technique, observe how celebrities manage their narratives in interviews. They strike a balance between being open and entertaining, ensuring their stories are both engaging and relatable. This approach not only helps them win over audiences, but also builds a sense of connection and trust. An equally important aspect of building attraction is being a good audience. When interacting with a woman, don't focus solely on crafting your next witty response or impressive remark. Instead, be present and genuinely interested in what she's saying. Engage actively by smiling, laughing, and responding to her stories with enthusiasm. Show empathy when the moment calls for it, adjusting your demeanor to match the tone of the conversation. People are drawn to those who make them feel heard and appreciated, and women in particular value emotional presence and attentiveness in a partner. Mastering cool vulnerability and active listening can create a powerful dynamic that deepens connections and makes your interactions unforgettable. Partners in crime. A powerful technique for creating a deep connection with a woman is what I call partners in crime. This approach is all about forming a unique bond through shared experiences and inside jokes that are exclusive to the two of you. When you create these special moments, the relationship feels more intimate and distinct, setting you apart from other men she may encounter. One classic example of this dynamic can be found in the early seasons of The Office, especially between Jim and Pam. Before they officially became a couple, they shared countless inside jokes and moments that only they understood. This created a partners in crime bond that made their connection feel compelling and authentic. In real life, I remember a girl I spent time with who had a particular dislike for the word literally. Whenever someone used it in conversation, I would subtly give her a knowing look, which would make her stifle a laugh. Sometimes, if I was talking to someone who had just used the word, I'd start overusing it on purpose just to make her laugh. These small moments created a sense of shared humor and a special understanding between us, a bond that made us feel closer. You can also foster this partners in crime dynamic by engaging in small, playful adventures that take her slightly outside her comfort zone. For example, imagine driving past a big mansion with an open house. You could suggest pretending to be a rich French couple looking to buy the place. Then, the two of you put on accents and ask the realtor ridiculous questions about the house, all while trying to keep a straight face. This fun, harmless game creates a memorable experience that's unique to your relationship. These shared experiences, inside jokes and playful moments, help to build a bond that goes beyond attraction. While she might meet other men who are more attractive or funnier than you, the combination of these unique memories and connections makes it much harder for her to replace the bond you formed. The more you incorporate partners in crime moments into your relationship, the more likely she is to become truly obsessed with you, chase you, and fall in love with you. Intimacy. The next technique for building a deeper connection is intimacy. This is about revealing personal and intimate things about yourself, thoughts or behaviors that most people wouldn't typically admit. By sharing these, you create a sense of closeness and trust, making her feel like she's part of a special, private world. For example, imagine you're casually chatting with her and you say something like, "You know, sometimes when I'm feeling down, I go on Facebook and look up old classmates who aren't doing as well as I am. I might check out who my ex is dating and think to myself, I'm better looking than that guy. Or I'm more successful." This is something that many people might think but would never say out loud. By admitting it, you're showing a vulnerable side of yourself that's also relatable. This type of sharing invites her to open up as well. She might respond with something similar, such as admitting she checks out her ex's new girlfriend and thinks, "I'm hotter than her." These seemingly trivial admissions create a bond between the two of you. It's like you've shared a secret, something you wouldn't tell just anyone. The more intimate thoughts she shares with you, the more invested she becomes in the relationship. She starts to feel that you're someone who understands her on a deeper level, someone she can trust with her private feelings. This connection makes it harder for her to walk away because she's already opened up parts of herself that she wouldn't share with just anyone. As her interest in you intensifies, the relationship becomes more significant and meaningful. Dissonance. The final concept we're discussing is dissonance, a potent technique that can create powerful emotional tension, but if misused, could easily cross into manipulation. It's important to use dissonance ethically as part of a broader strategy for building attraction and connection. The method I use, called the scrambler, is heavily influenced by this principle, but it focuses on applying dissonance in an effective and responsible way. Dissonance occurs when two conflicting ideas exist simultaneously in someone's mind, creating mental tension. For example, imagine a woman expressing interest by talking about a future together, like mentioning plans to attend her sister's wedding with you in 6 months, yet frequently canceling plans. This contradiction causes confusion and tension because our brains crave resolution and clarity. When we don't get that, it often makes us even more invested in finding a solution. The key with dissonance is to ensure that some emotional investment already exists before introducing this technique. If you try to create this tension too early when she isn't emotionally invested, it likely won't have the desired effect. Many people mistake playing hard to get as a universal solution, but it only works when the woman is already engaged in thinking about you. Once you've caught her attention and she's invested emotionally, introducing a little dissonance can create even more desire. This is when you notice her texting you more often, initiating plans, and talking about the future in a way that aligns with her actions. This is the opposite of someone who talks about the future but never follows through. It's also important to remember that transitioning from dating to a relationship doesn't have to be hard. Women enter relationships every day, and many end up with men who aren't necessarily super rich or exceptionally attractive. What sets these men apart is their ability to create emotional experiences, like using dissonance to make a woman want to invest in a relationship long-term. If you found this information useful, feel free to hit subscribe and leave a comment, letting me know what you'd like me to cover next.